Hey guys, good evening. So I hope you all can hear me properly. Hey guys. So, so good evening to all. This is basically not not a session as such. It's just like a study group. I wanted to do this. So, so keep your notes and stuff ready. We're gonna study, okay? So that's what we're gonna do. So I hope you all have your notebooks and stuff. And by the way, whatever questions or something that I ask, please just post it on the chat so I'll know that you're replying to it. Probably there'll be a delay of 5 odd minutes. I mean, 5 seconds or 10 seconds. That shouldn't be a problem. Okay. And in case you are not able to watch it, you can always come back and watch it, right? See. So let's just. I hope you're all safe and sound. It's been a long time since we met. And in college, we were seeing all the other stuff. We were trying to be very productive there. But I feel only watching videos will not help us in any way. Okay, and we are not doing anything productive. Okay, so let's just start out with this one. We'll see how it goes. Okay, guys. So today we're going to talk about Augustan age. I don't think we can complete it in 1 hour. We can just try to do half of it. So I will be asking certain questions. So please answer them as well. Okay. The reason why we are starting from Augustan age is because we had already uh, tried to complete half the portions, and some of the portions we were not able to do it. So right from Augustan age, we will continue with the other ones. Okay. So once we finish, we are going to complete the entire syllabus of NET. Okay, at least paper 2 as such. So that is our idea behind this. And as I already told you guys, follow the 80-20 rule. That is, 80-20 rule is pretty simple. The rule is that what are the small things which will give you a lot of results. If I do 20% of work, I should be able to get 80% of result. So that is our idea behind you know 80-20 rule, and that's what we are trying to do today. Okay, okay guys, let's just start. I'm going to share the screen. So today we're going to talk about Augustan age. So what's Augustan age? So Augustan age starts from 1700 to 1759. Now, the materials that those things are provided, right? They are just points, but what I teach you will give you an idea about what is this all about. So let's just run into it. First and foremost, neoclassical or Augustan age, or sometimes it's called the age of hope. So right? Um, Now the first question that arises is, why do you call it the Augustan age? Simple. There was a Roman guy called Augustan. So he, during those days, it was classical, right? So if you have seen our other videos on Plato, Aristotle, and all, they were conformist. That is, they stuck to some things. They wanted drama to be in a certain way. They wanted poetry to be in a certain way. They always thought of rules as such. So you see, this age also seems to be just like the classical Roman age. So there was a king called Augustine, and that eventually is why we call it the neoclassical. That is, these guys are the classicals, but the new classicals, not the old. Greek or Roman fellows, right? So that's why we call them as Augustan. And most popular writers like Pope uh, and also Johnson, they all came under this thing. And here is a concept that you should always remember. The concept is age of reasoning. Okay, the age of reasoning was an important factor here. So what do you mean by age of reasoning? Before this, there were these philosophers who would not question anything. They would just go on. They were romantics. Previous ages, if you notice, right? So if you see the Elizabethan age and then branching out to Puritan age, there's a big shift. Whereas Elizabethan age, they were like, okay, guys, let's do dramas, let's dance around. This is the happiest time of their lives. But once when it comes to Puritan age, it's completely opposite of Elizabethan age in a way of religious understanding. They shut down the theaters. They said no more entertainment. Only God is important for us, and they went in that way, right? So all these things that led to the next stage, that is age of reasoning. Age of reasoning basically started questioning things, right? It started telling, okay, what is the truth? What is real? It was completely different. And here logic started coming, and there were some great books, non-fiction books that we will see in this list. Okay, so just take note of all these things. Now, as I already mentioned, when English writers started imitating Roman writers, then it's the start of neoclassical age. Everyone knows that. And now we have to see a famous French philosopher, Voltaire. Voltaire was like a great mind. He started thinking a lot, and he wrote. Actually, these guys were against the church, the oppression of the church in a way, right? So he wrote this wonderful book, satire book called Candid. It's one of the best books. Okay, if you have time, just read it through. And what happens is Walter tries to have a philosophical discussion throughout the book. He's trying to make a philosophical argument there. But what's so interesting in that book is that at the end there is a scene. Okay, this scene is very important where he goes and meets a Turk. I'm not very sure what the nationality is. Most probably is the Turkish guy. So he seems to be not worried about the world. He's not worried about the political space. He's not worried about anything else. He's telling he's very happy. So Voltaire is like, hey, how come you are so happy? How come everybody is worried about everything, and you seem to be this happy kid? What is the secret? So that Turkish guy tells him, look, I tend to my own garden. So that is awesome line, right? I tend to my own garden. That is, I don't worry about what's happening outside. I'm just looking after what I can do, what power I have of doing, right? Whatever I am able to change, whatever I am able to work on, that alone I do. So that is what French philosopher Voltaire said. And remember that book Candide is a very famous book, and he was a satirist, and they all come under the age of reasoning. Okay, so following this, we have Rousseau. Rousseau was also a great philosopher. Okay, he also came under the Enlightenment time. Okay, and he was a great philosopher. You just have to remember the names. What is important, we will focus. The others, we'll just mention them and we'll connect them and we'll keep going. Okay. Sometimes I might ask you pop questions, so just be wary of that. Uh, so, what age are we talking about? What age are we talking about? Probably we'll have like 5 to 8 seconds of delay, but I think you can answer in the chat box so that you will be doing the active listening and not a passive listener as well. So, what age are we talking about? And what is the year? Sound. So if somebody puts out the year, it will be awesome. Okay, that's awesome. So we're all talking about Augustan age. I just want to know like when the year that is important. So you'll never forget the year. Yes, Sandhya said 1700 to 1798. That's awesome. So remember, it's 98 years. 1700 to 1798. So we have seen Rousseau, Voltaire, all these guys come from the age of Enlightenment. Now comes the age of periodicals. Periodicals are basically kind of magazines right now. Our understanding of magazines, newspapers. Now, here's a bit of a history. Like all these newspapers, how did they come, right? So somewhere it started. So that is where the famous periodicals come into play, right? So we already know this, we have learned it, but now we'll see this. So the first kind of periodicals, now the age is 1709 to 1711, and that is Tatler. Okay, Tatler, it was started by Richard Steele. He was the guy who started Tatler, and this was published. Remember the years? In some question papers, I have noticed that they have asked the years. Okay, they have asked, I mean, on the days when it was published. It's all trick questions, so remember them. Okay, so just remember a TTS. So it's easy. So Tatler starts with a T, so you can remember it as Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. TTS. That's easy to remember, right? So that's Tatler 19 not I mean 1709 and 1711. So that's the first one, and Richard Steele. So I usually remember it as like TR. So Tatler, Richard Steele, then it comes on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and it also comes on Saturdays. Next one we have to talk about Spectator. Spectator is by both Joseph Addison and Richard Steele. This after this year, right? 1711 to 17. I'm not sure. Probably there's a mistake. 1712. Okay, this one is 1712. So that is a mistake there. 1712. This was by Joseph Addison and Richard Steele, and this was daily. Spectator was daily, and even now there are some newspapers with the same name: Spectator, Spectacular, many kinds of things. Okay, and then uh, Rambler, Rambler and Idler, both by Samuel Johnson. Okay, so Samuel Johnson was the one who started Rambler and Idler, and this is on TS Tuesday, Thursday, and this one is on weekly. Every day of the, I mean, every week this came out. So I was reading how to memorize a lot of things, and there was a technique called visual implementations. So if you want to remember something quickly, you can do this. That is, every word, put it into action, put it into a framework. Okay, that is the Tatler. Imagine a guy sitting, or a spectator, somebody seeing, or a rambler who's walking around, idler sitting still. So if you can picture those things in your mind, you would do better. Okay, you will not forget these things. Okay, so what are we talking about? We are talking about periodicals, and the periodicals are Tatler, Spectator, Rambler, and Idler. So remember this easily. We would use like TSRI. So TSRI should be uh, the thing that you should remember. These are the most important periodicals. Now, an extra information for you guys. Right now, I saw this in another, but obviously they will not ask. There are fantasy periodicals which never existed, and one of them is Daily Prophet in Harry Potter. You know, Harry Potter series. There is a newspaper called Daily Prophet. Okay, so these things just to connect to the wider stuff. So, so Tatler, Spectator, Rambler, Idler. So obviously the last two belongs to Samuel Johnson, and that's on Tuesday and Saturday, and then Idler is only on weeks. whereas Statler is TTS, and Spectator is daily. Okay, so that should be clear. Okay, so I might ask you questions on that. So if you can, just tell me who was the one who wrote the Idler. I mean, who was the founder of Idler? Any idea? So if you can tell me that, we just go. So who started with Idler? Idler. Yes. Getting awesome. So that is awesome. So Idler. So TTS. So TTS or T, you can remember them. Okay. So let's just go to the next one. Now, before this, I just wanted to cover something called the graveyard poets. So, in case if they ask you something like graveyard poets, there were a group of poets who wrote poems of sadness, and they talked about elegies and all these things. Because we are going to see about elegy down the line, so that would be essential to know right now. Okay. Yes, thank you guys. It was all Samuel Johnson. Awesome. Actually, I wrote it up so that you could see the answers. If you have not taken down your notes, you will not be. Super Nancy ma'am, super Sandhya. Let's just get on with that. Okay. So next major poet we are going to talk about is none other than Alexander Pope. Okay, a bit of a history for Alexander Pope. Alexander Pope did not go to school properly. That is all because he was a Catholic. Those days, Britain was kind of like, what to say, they were supporting a lot of Protestants. So if you're a Catholic, you're an outsider, you're a minority. Okay, so he was a Catholic, his parents were Catholic, so he did not get admission in any Protestant schools. They wouldn't give. So he was kind of a guy who was self-taught. He learned everything by himself, right? He read lots and lots of books, and because of his intense reading and stuff, he actually suffered a lot. Okay, his health deteriorated. He had a lot of problems with his health and all these things. Okay, so Alexander Pope is from 1688 to 1744. That's when Alexander Pope comes into play, and now he was a critic, poet, and a satirist. Okay, he was a critic, poet, and satirist. And as I already mentioned, he learned by himself Greek and Latin, which is a great thing. Anybody who's trying to learn new language knows this. It's not easy. But he taught himself. He was a self-taught, self-didact, they used to say, right? So the guys who read by themselves. So he learned by himself Greek and Latin. And you know what? He didn't waste it. He translated Iliad, which is a great work. Now here's a pop question to you guys. Who wrote Iliad? The two great epics. Anyone? So if you say that, probably is because of the delays. Okay. Who wrote Iliad? And so I know you're gonna ask awesome, awesome Amalan. So it's Homer, okay, the blind poet, but we are not sure whether he wrote it or not. So because it's Odyssey, yes, that's that Iliad and Odyssey. Homer, yes, yes, Homer wrote it. So while we are doing this, we are going to ask questions, so you might just connect with the things as such. Okay, so Iliad and Odyssey was written by Homer, but it was translated. One of the translations, okay, one of the translations was done by Alexander Pope. And then let's just jump into his famous works, was basically critical works, essay on criticism and an essay on man. Okay, so these are his two major works as such, and he wrote a heroic couplet. Heroic couplet are two lines, right? It's just basically like Tirukkural, like two lines. So you might have heard lot of proverbs. So, to error is human, to forgive divine. All these words are from basically our wonderful, great Alexander Pope himself, right? So there are lots of lines. Okay, so he wrote essay on criticism, essay on man. He specialized in that. So he wrote that. And then Dunsinier is a major poem. Okay, it was a great poem that you should know about that. Okay, and now we are going to talk about it is actually criticizing the British government. This work was about that. Then there was an epistle. Epistle means you already know, letter to Dr. Arbuthnot. Okay, there was a guy called Arbuthnot, so it was written like that. And his most momentous work, okay, it is called Rape of the Lock. It's a mock epic. Okay, now here are some thoughts that you should know about this. Now, epics are grand, they have grand characters, and the language is basically sublime. Okay, so that's what epic means, right? But Rape of the Lock is supposed to be a mock epic. Mock epic is, now here is an idea you should always remember. He did not mock the style of Ode. He was not mocking at Ode as a writing tool. Okay, he was showing only one thing. That is, he was showing that how these rich people, aristocrats, were living. So he used the word form. He was not against word form, and he was not trying to demean word form at all. Okay, so he was basically trying to demean the way these people were living and how they were trying to act out and how they were trying to live a great grand life, which was unnatural, artificial. In reality, it was snobbish. The word is snobbish there. Okay, so they were snobs at best. Now, rape of lock, everybody knows. They cut. Uh, there is a kind of a thing, confusion. Somebody cuts the hair, it gets lost, and the whole story is about finding the lost hair. Okay, so that is the rape of the lock. So you might have heard about characters like Beatrix and all these things. So will not get into stories as such. We are trying to connect all the things so you can learn the ideas, which will help you to clear net. Okay. So Alexander Pope, remember, he was a critic, poet, satirist. He wrote, he translated Homer. He was self-taught. He got sick because of his continuous studying, and he wrote essay on criticism, essay on man, Dunsinier, and epistle to Dr. Arbuthnot, the rape of the lock. So these are the stories. I mean, these are the works that he wrote. Okay, so remember all these things, and there are this was it was divided into cantos, small parts. Okay, and it was dedicated to John Carl. Okay, John Carl, it was dedicated to him. Okay, so I hope that is clear for you guys, right? So let's just jump into the next one. Okay, so before that, just a short question that I wanted to ask. uh, let's see, when, okay, one of the works was called Essay on Man. What is another essay written by Alexander Pope? One work was called Essay on Man, and what are the other work called? Yes, Kirti Pinage has told us perfectly. It's essay on criticism. So you are all clear. So which age starts from 1700 to 17, let's say 98? So, yes, Niveda ma'am, Kiti, awesome. Okay, so I think we'll jump on to the next one. It's Dr. Johnson. Everybody knows Johnson, 1709 to 1784. Dr. Johnson was this great intellectual guy during those days. So usually what would happen is they would all sit around and the places they sat mostly hung out was called coffee house. Okay, coffee houses where they sat and where they talked about literature for a long time. So there was Johnson, who was this great intellectual beast, and he wrote the Dictionary of English Language, 1755. It almost contained 40,000 words in his first dictionary. Obviously, there were many things. Okay, uh, so this year word post truth and all these things. Okay, so this is important thing. He is the guy who wrote the dictionary as such, and then he wrote poems like London, Irene, and all these things. These are all poems. This is the dictionary he wrote, and then he wrote a novella, short story, which is called Prince of Abyssinia, and a critical work. This critical work is a famous critical work. Okay, and this is called Preface to Shakespeare. Preface to Shakespeare, and he was try he see, already I have told you that criticism doesn't mean they're telling only the wrong things. Okay, it also means telling the right and what is wrong in a work. Okay, so in simple terms, in layman terms, so what basically happened was he was telling, look, Shakespeare is great, I understand Shakespeare is awesome, but still he got these problems. So he was writing criticism, and that's preface to Shakespeare, you should know. And now, Dr. Johnson, extra informations that the works are pretty simple. So he wrote London, Irene, he wrote the dictionary, Prince of Abyssinia, preface to Shakespeare. But most importantly, there was a guy who wrote his biography. Okay, so it was not an autobiography; it was a biography, and that was written by Boswell. Boswell was not very particularly known by people at that time, but because of writing Dr. Johnson's biography, he's very well known. Okay, there are many stories you would have heard about him, I suppose. So the autobiography of Johnson was written by whom? It was Boswell. Okay, Boswell. So that is Boswell's work, and of course, Mr. Johnson was acquainted with a great another person. His name was Oliver Goldsmith. Okay, and Oliver Goldsmith is considered one of the best writers. Okay, even though he had a rough life, he was a friend of Johnson, and Johnson helped him in publishing the works, like some of his works, right? So he kind of helped him, right? That is the Vicar of Wakefield, I suppose. So that was the work, if I'm not wrong. Uh, I think Mr. Amalan would know it better than that. Okay, so this is Dr. Samuel Johnson's work. So these are the works: Dictionary, Prince of Abyssinia, Preface, and remember what I'm connecting to. Okay, Boswell. Boswell wrote the thing, and Oliver Goldsmith. And what was Goldsmith's works like? All this Vicar of Wakefield, or he wrote a lot of awesome deserted village, all these poetic works. Okay, so just try to connect it as I say. Okay, so that should be another thing. And okay, now you're clear with this, so we can move on to the next ones, I suppose. Before that, just a quick question to you guys. Uh, Who was the founder of the Tatler? If you can answer it, we'll just move on to the next one. Who's the founder of Tatler? So if you can answer, we'll just move on to our next thing. Tatler. So as I mentioned, Oliver Goldsmith wrote Deserted Village, Write Down and Keep. Okay, Deserted Village is the work. Yes, awesome. So we keep the Richard Steele, of course. Wonderful. Okay, super. So one more work that you guys should be aware of is life of uh, lives of most eminent English poets. So be aware of these works. This is an important work, okay? And this was probably, it had 52 poets, okay? It had 52 poets, about 52 poets it covered, okay? Critical biographies, and importantly, it covered the works of Milton, Dryden, Pope, and Addison. It almost covered 52 poets, and also remember it covered Milton, Dryden, Pope, Addison. So you already know Abyssinia, Irene, London, Lives of the Most Eminent English Poets, Dictionary, and who wrote Boswell was the one who wrote the things. So you're clear with other guy. Okay, others quickly we'll finish. Okay, next is Thomas Gray, 1716 to 1771. Okay, 1716 to 1731, and his work. Only one work you got to remember about Thomas Gray, and that is LG written in a country churchyard. It's an awesome poem. It's a brilliantly rhyming poem. Okay, it's a wonderful poem which rhymes a lot, and it is about death and how death is important in life. So it's about a traveler who goes and it's an elegy, right? So somebody dies, they write that sadness, all these things are part of that poem. And I'm not sure who said this, but some prince said this, that I wish, uh, I mean, I'm not happy that people should remember me as a king, but I would be so happy if they remembered me for writing such a. I'm not doing it verbatim. I'm just telling you. Somebody said so. We understand how awesome this poem should be, right? So he wrote. Gray basically wrote this poem for his friend who died. Okay, his name was Richard West. So Richard West died, and for him he had written this work. So it was Richard. Okay, so Richard Best, for him, he had dedicated and written this. And this is not correct, okay? From whom the bells call, this is wrong. This is from John Donne, I checked out. Okay, that's not correct. So, LG written in a country churchyard, there is the theme of Memento Mori. So, these are all Latin themes, okay? Some of the themes, like, you know, there are like awesome themes in for example, there are themes like carpe diem, memento morius. That is, they are all Latin phrases which are related to certain things. Okay, memento mori is remember you must die. That is the understanding behind memento mori. That is, remember you're all mortal, you're going to die, so don't act. So Corona teaches us that, okay, don't show off because you're gonna die. So LG written and country churchyard has the theme and it covers that beautifully. And many people have said this, and especially there is a guy who said this. Is the finest flower of the literature of melancholy, which Gray may be said to be haunted by a Hamlet like melancholy and sense of frustration. Okay, this was said by W.V. Moody. Moody said it's basically it's telling it's an awesome poem. Okay, so that is what an LG written in a country that means, and it was written for Richard West. Okay, so that should be a thing. So before going to the next, guys, let me just put out a pop quiz for you guys. Who wrote the biography of? Yes, very good. Horace Walpole and Richard West. So, who wrote the biography of Johnson? Can anybody tell me? So, just tell me who wrote the biography of Johnson. Yes, wonderful. I got one answer. What about the rest? Any more answers? That's Boswell. Very good. Kirti is rocking. Okay. Now let's just get into it. I think half the way we have come. But probably we can't finish it today, but still we would be better off. We can revise it one more time. William Collins, okay, he was an ode writer and an ode of the popular superstitions of the Highlands. That was his work, okay. So that was William Collins' important work. So he has written so many odes. Probably you can write it down as I read it. He wrote Ode to Fear, Ode to Pity, Ode for Music, Ode to Evening. Almost every odes he has written. Okay, so he's like Ode to Fear, Ode to Pity, Ode to Music, Ode to Evening, and all. So this I can ask a question to for your intelligent audience: who wrote Ode to Skylark? Anybody can tell me who wrote Ode to Skylark? So that would be a great thing. So William Collins is considered as an ode writer, and he wrote very good. Shelley, awesome guys, you're rocking. Okay. So Shelley wrote Ode to Skylark. Then there is Ode to West Wind, and there are lots of odes, Ode to Autumn and stuff. And of course, there is John Keats. While we are doing Romantic Age, probably we'll cover that. So William Collins, write down all the odes. That is ode for music, ode to evening, ode to simplicity, all these things. Okay, you can check out. Next, we have already connected with Oliver Goldsmith, along with Doctor actually Oliver Goldsmith, along with a famous Johnson. Actually, you know what he was doing? He was a quack doctor. He did not do proper medicinal studies. Probably he left halfway, I suppose. He was kind of quack. He did not really know medicine, but he was giving medicines and stuff. And one interesting thing is probably this is the only guy who just missed a ship. You know, ships don't take off quickly, right? They don't take off on a spur. They wait there for like a month or so. If they are anchored, they wait for like 2 months time or 1 month time. They wait there, right? So, but our wonderful Oliver Goldsmith, he wanted gaudy clothes. He was like enjoying his life and all these things. He missed a ship, which was a very important ship. He missed the ship because he was late. Yeah, somebody missing a ship which waits for a month. So you know what kind of guy he was, like not bothered about stuff. So he was an Irish playwright, poet, and novelist. Of course, I have already mentioned Dr. Johnson supported him financially, and as I'm telling you, right, this is I'm connecting you to get all the things. Okay, there are a lot of details, but you don't need to get into it. First, he wrote the work Deserted Village. during the time 1770, and then, as I already mentioned, Vicar of Wakefield 1766, and a drama, also drama, She Stoops to Conquer 1773, or Mistake of the Night. So this is a play. Okay, this is a play, and Vicar of Wakefield novel. This poetry. Okay, and I suppose Stanley Fish also wrote something related to Deserted Village as a poem. I'm not sure. Okay, so remember these works. These are his works. And even Vicar of Wakefield, he wanted some cash, so he quickly wrote that work. It was not like trying to be the next best literary work. He just wanted some cash, so he got help from Johnson. He wrote it quickly and he got on with things. So that kind of writer was he. So it was Vicar of Wakefield, Deserted Village, He Stoops to Conquer. So that is Oliver Goldsmith, and we already know how he is coming. So let's talk about William Cooper for a bit. William Cooper, he wrote Delia. Okay, so that is, he wrote about an affair, and here it says Delia chronicles their affair. Actually, he had an affair with a person. I mean, he fell in love with a girl called Theodora Cooper. Okay, that girl is Theodora. Yeah, trying to get a pen so you can easily see. My handwriting won't be good even in a, I mean, if I write on a board, but now it should be terrible. Theodora Cooper, a cousin. Okay, so but father did not approve as usually. So he wrote a sequence of poems and he called it Delia. Whatever affairs they had, they wrote. He finally married another person called Anne Darrell. Okay, so these are all his things, but we can focus on the work. His works, important works are Delia and House of Lords. It was a journal. Okay, that was a journal. So remember William Cooper, IAM. Okay, so William Cooper is not like important as Oliver Goldsmith or important as Johnson, but just remember these guys. Okay, so William. Now, probably a revision question to you guys. Can anyone tell me when was, I mean, when was elegy written in a country churchyard written? When was this poem written? Which year? Probably I missed to say, but if you have taken notes, you would have written it. Okay, when was it written? So after this, we have Burns and probably two more. Yes, Harimala has been doing wonderfully well. 1751, very good. Awesome. Keep it up. So it was 1751, guys. So we have seen Oliver Goldsmith and we have seen William Cooper. Now, let's just finish off with two poets and then we are jumping into the major novelists. Okay, but I think major novelist would be for the next class, and then we have major prose writers, and along with that, the philosophers, and then the Age of Augustan is done. Okay, so for the members, you get the test right after doing all these things. Okay, next person that we are dealing with, John Crabbe. Okay, 1754 to 1832. So George Crabbe is 1754 to 1832. He was related to coffee house. Now I have already mentioned they're all sitting in a coffee house. They're all trying to talk about literature, and this is where literary pieces came out. Now, even in the modern times, France, Paris was such a place. Okay, so writers like Hemingway and all these great writers, they used to all be gathered in Paris. It was like how in the 18th century coffee houses were there. That's how in modern literature it is. So his one major work would be The Village. He was actually mocking Oliver Goldsmith's Deserted Village. Okay, it was a mockery of deserted village. So that is George Crabbe's The Village. So remember George Crabbe. Okay, then of course here is an awesome ballad writer. Okay, he's Robert Burns. He was a Scottish poet. He wrote lots and lots of country works. Think as a red rose. All his works are beautifully written. Okay, so he wrote some works and important works. Remember, poems chiefly the Scottish dialect. Okay, chiefly in the Scottish dialect. Remember this work. This is an important work. Okay, my love is like a red rose. The Poor Mouse, The Death and Dying Words of Poor Malay, they are all famous works. Okay, the Two Dogs, the Holy Fair, all these things. But To a Mouse and this thing important. Okay, remember these things. So his work poems chiefly in the Scottish dialect. Okay, this is a wonderful work. This was on 1786, and Handsome Neil was also another work, I suppose. Okay, but I can't see uh, the year. Okay, check out the year. So remember, he wrote lot of country kind of music. I mean, songs which could be sung. Okay, so that is an awesome work. Okay, then his other important work, one other work is Tam O'Shanter. Okay, Tam O'Shanter is an important work as well. It's a verse tale that depicted Tam's escape from witches. Tam O'Shanter, Shanter, Shanter. Okay, Tam, Tam, Shanter. So he is trying to escape from witches. So that is the work, and this was written in 1791. So these are the works we have seen today. The next class we will see major novelists of the Augustan age. That is a separate thing. So today we have seen all these guys. Okay. So we saw what he mean by Augustan age. So it was from 1700 to 1798, and we saw it was an age of reason, and we saw Voltaire, what work he did, and Rousseau, and how periodicals started, and Tatler, Spectator, Rambler, Idler, and who started it, and when were they published, and Alexander Pope's works, Samuel Johnson and his works, and we also talked about Thomas Gray, William Collins, Oliver Goldsmith, William Cooper, George Crabbe, Robert Burns, and major novelists of the Christian thing we will see in the next class. So some revision questions I will ask you guys, and after telling that we will wind up this session. Okay, simple and very quickly you can answer these questions, right? So who was self-taught and he translated Homer? I mean Homer's Iliad to English. Who was that person? So if you can put the answer, superb. Yes, Pope. Awesome. Okay, here is a old question. Okay, from net question, I want to ask you certain things. So if you are okay with that, okay. Uh, who among the following? This was on December 2012. Okay, so who among the following is credited with making of the first authoritative dictionary of the English language? So is it A. Bishop Berkeley, B. Samuel Johnson, C. Edmund Burke, or D. Horace Walpole? Who was it? Yes, guys, awesome. The answer is Pope, right? Yes. So who's credited with making the first authoritative dictionary? Yes, These are all old questions. Only if we had known. Okay. Okay, that's awesome, guys. Okay, these things you can learn extra. Try guessing it. Okay, try guessing this. In the Rape of Lock, Pope repeatedly compares Belinda to A. Sun, Moon, North Star, Rose. Can you guess it? This is the old question, June 2012. In the Rape of Lock, Pope repeatedly compares Belinda to whom? Okay. Is North Star the correct answer? Any other answers? Is it the sun? Is it the moon, the North Star, or the rose? Any answers? It says it's sun. Okay, sun is the answer. So I hope it was useful. The people will get. We will continue with the next one. We will inform you when is the next class. Keep reading all the stuff, and we'll be posting all the other things in the group. So take care of yourself, guys. Thank you for spending this time. I hope it was useful. I hope you made some productive improvement today. The sun, Amalanji, the sun, Johnson. Okay. Thank you, Nancy, ma'am. All of you for coming, taking your time, come and study. Thank you so much. Yes, the answer is sun, but probably the book might be wrong. So just all these things. Okay, thank you, folks. You can leave.